Welcome back, everyone. This is another video showing Clara.io and doing basic 3D. So here I am logged in. You can see my login is up here in the top right, and all of my scenes that I have created down here. I'm going to go ahead and open up a existing scene showing off X, Y, Z. And before we look in the scene, notice up here at the tabs, you're always going to have the tab of your active scene open, but then you usually have your document scene tab open as well. And I would recommend keeping that open as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom out by scrolling so I can see all four of my windows. So just real quickly, if this is your first time doing 3D, you'll see that we have all of the axes, X, Y, and Z. And this is a great little model here that just illustrates those three axes here. And you'll notice that I put in the positive and the negative directions here just to help you out. Remember that when you click on an object, you will typically see the axes here. Red is always X, green is always Y, and blue is always the Z axis. And just to note, I noted this in the last video, that the arrowheads always point in the positive direction. So opposite of that would always be negative, and that will really help you out in your 3D journey. All right, so with that said, I'm going to show you how to combine windows. In my first video, I showed you how you could change the views, so you could change what they showed. Right now I'm showing a top, perspective, left, and front view. But let's say I wanted to combine these in some way. So if you look up here in the top right hand corner, you'll see these little arrows here. And so if I click on this first one, this up and down arrow, you'll see that it combines these two into one. And that can be really handy if you're doing some detailed work. And if I click on it again, you'll see they come back. If I click on this next set of arrows going horizontally, it'll basically combine these two here. And I can click on them again. And maybe I didn't want to see this view. Maybe I wanted to see the perspective view. So I would just do the same thing, and you'll see now they're combined, and so I have a wider perspective view, and I can bring them back. Last but not least, there is a double arrow here that's going diagonally, and if I click on that, it'll basically maximize into one view. And that's really important and fantastic because now I can just focus in on one view. The downside of working with one view, as nice as it is that sometimes you really want to see your object or your whole object scene from multiple views at once. So you just simply click on that again and you go back to the quad view. Okay, so now on to the focus of today's video. We're going to learn how to do basic manipulations to 3D objects. So this has been saved. It does have auto saves, which is great. So I can either go back to this previous tab. If you don't see this tab, and I'll go ahead and close that. If you don't see that tab, you can get back to it by coming up here to the top right-hand corner, click where your avatar is logged in, and right here you'll see the little home icon, and it'll say Scenes. So if I click on that, it'll now open up the tab to the scenes. Now, what's interesting is that it leaves my older project still open. So I would suggest that you get in the habit of closing it, so that way your device doesn't slow down by having a whole bunch of projects open. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on New Scene, and I'm going to create an empty scene, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this 3D Objects Manipulate. Okay, and I'll click on Create. All right, so here's my new empty scene, and I do suggest that you get used to working in all four views so you can really see how things get put together. So I'm going to go ahead and just click to create a box, and a new hotkey that's going to be really helpful is going to be the letter F. And so I have the cube selected. If I press F, it's going to focus or frame that object in this particular view. So if I go around to my other views and I press F a few times, you'll see that it focuses or frames, whatever word works for you, in those four views. And so that's really helpful. it's only going to focus on the object that's selected. So if I bring in another object, like let's say a cone, and I'm going to go ahead and move this cone off to the side. So now the cone is selected. If I press F, it's going to focus in on the cone. Another tool that will be helpful is if I press the letter A, think all, and that will then let you see all objects. So you'll be using the A key quite a bit. So F to focus in on the object that's selected, A to select and focus in on all. Okay, so what I want to focus in on today on this video is the Move tool, the Rotate tool, and the Scale tool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to focus on the cone. There we go. And you'll see that we're in the Move tool right now. If you look at the three arrows here, that's on the Move tool. And up here in the top left, I'm under the General tab, not the Model tab, but the General tab. And we have four tools here. We have the Select tool, we have the Move tool, we have the Rotate tool, and we have the Scale tool. Now you can click on all four of these tools to change it. If you're ready for keyboard shortcuts, if you press the letter Q, you'll get to the Select tool, and that will literally just let you select objects like that. If you press W, that will then switch you to the Move tool, and you'll notice that now I have the move arrows for the three axes. If I press the letter E, E will get you to the Rotate tool, and the letter R will get you to the Scale tool. And so it's just a little bit faster than pressing the keys up here, but whatever works for you. So I'm going to press W and get to the Move tool. So now I can go ahead and I can move this on all three axes. I can just click and drag on the blue arrow for the Z axis. I can click and drag on the red arrow for the red axis, and I can click and drag on the green arrowhead for the Y axis. And you can move it in positive or negative directions. Okay, let's try Rotate now. So if I press E, I'm going to be in Rotate mode, and you'll see that the arrows have now changed to rotate rings. And again, they're color-coded. So if I go here and I highlight the red ring, I can click and drag, and I'm rotating only on the X axis. Okay, I can choose the Y, and I'm basically rotating around. And again, not much happens to the cone when you're rotating around the Y axis, but you can see it happening in all of the views. And last but not least, I can highlight the Z axis, and there you go. You can see that I am rotating it and spinning it around over there. Okay, and last but not least, if I press the letter R, you'll see that now the tools change, and now I can scale. So I can scale in the Z axis, and I can scale in the the X axis. That's the X axis right there. And I can scale in the green Y axis. So I can make it really tall and go like that. Okay? Now, those are scaling on the individual axes. What if I want to scale the entire object and I want the whole thing to get bigger? Well, that's what this middle white part is about. So if I click and drag on the center there, you'll see that I'm scaling the entire object. I'm making the object bigger. I'm making the object smaller overall. So that's what that middle part is. So that's scale. If I go back to Rotate, E, and I put my mouse pointer in the center here, this little white dot, you'll see that I'm basically free rotating the object. I'm not a big fan of this because it's fun, it looks neat, but I have very little control over it. So when I do rotation, I like to rotate it on the individual axes. And last but not least, for Move, if I put it in the center, you'll see that there's no free move. There's nothing in the middle there. So it's really just for Rotate and for Scale. And I find that scaling the whole object in the center, that's the most helpful by far. So by using those tools, Move, Rotate, and Scale, you can basically manipulate your objects freely. And so what you should try doing these first couple days is you should try moving objects to be on top of each other. I'm going to press A so I can see everything going on here. And then you'll notice that my cone is really large and it's got some rotation on it. So how would I fix that? So I'm looking in the front view right here. So what I would do is I would press E and get to rotation, or you can go up to rotate over here. And I'm looking in the front view and I want to fix the rotation on that. So I'm going to rotate it on the Z axis, and you'll notice that it's getting better about its rotation there. Maybe I want to rotate it a little bit in the top view. And so you want to get in the habit of moving around in different views until your objects look good. And that's going to take some getting used to. Now I can go ahead and move this by going to the Move tool or pressing W, and now I can move it just right so that it's just sitting exactly on top of the cube. Now, I want to change my windows around a little bit. I have two perspective views, so I'm going to make this view become a top view, and I'm going to make it go back to wireframe mode so I can see through it. That's really helpful. And I'm going to change this view back to a left view. Okay. There we go. So now I can really see things as I want them to. So now I'm going to get to scale because I think the cone is a little too big, and I'm going to press E, and I'm going to put my mouse pointer right in the center, right on that white dot. And when I click and drag, the whole, oops, sorry, it should have been R, not rotate. There we go. So now I click and drag, and now the cone is scaling down, getting smaller. There we go. So I'll go back to Move, and I'll get it right on top. And now the cone is looking better. It still has a little bit of a rotation. So to rotate, I'll press E, come over here, and I'll rotate it a little bit, get it just right, and you can go ahead and kind of eyeball it there. Okay, so that is it. Really simple object, but again, introducing the Move tool, the Rotate tool, and the Scale tool, the keyboard shortcuts that you want to start memorizing and using. So those are Q for the Select tool, W for the Move tool, E for the Rotate tool, and R for the Scale tool. All right, and so by doing that, you can go ahead and take all of these objects that are up here and add them in and combine them and manipulate them around in 3D space and start to get very comfortable. All right, I hope this helps you out, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.